On this episode of Big Boys Don't Cry, we discuss the film To All the Boys I've Loved Before, Always and Forever. You don't have to have seen the film to enjoy the podcast, but if you do listen without having seen the film, just be aware that we can't guarantee that this episode will be spoiler-free. Enjoy.
Hello.
Today is gonna be a day that we talk about a trilogy. I wanted to do better than that, but I literally just thought about working in Oasis right there on the spot, so that's all you get.
That's all that Oasis deserves, to be fair.
Yeah, but we'll get on to that. I just wanted to first apologise for being a few minutes late, because we were watching Married at First Sight Australia. Are you aware of this reality TV show?
I have heard of Married at First Sight. Yes, I have not watched it. Is it enjoyable? Is it the kind of trash
This is
that
the
I should
Australian
watch?
version, and it's on every night. Well, during the week anyway, at least. My wife watches it every night, and I'm sort of in and out. I know who the key players are and what the main storylines are and stuff. As sometimes I'm in the other room boiling some eggs, and then I come in and I find out that someone's annoyed with someone else or whatever. And, you know, they do all the classic reality TV things of finding awful people and then putting them in rooms together and whatever. But there was a cucking situation that I wanted to see, so I'm sorry that I watched a bit of that, and now I'm a few minutes late for the podcast.
That is quite all right. What was this cucking situation? Spoiler alert
for Married at First Sight Australia on E4.
Australia.
I think it's also was aired 2 or 3 years ago in Australia, and now it's on E4 here because E4.
That's how long it takes the carrier pigeon to take the tapes over from Australia, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it is on the other side of the world. Let's be fair.
That's how long it takes.
Yeah. But basically, one of the two of the people from the couples had gone off to form another couple behind their partner's back. If you can't guess, the premise of the show is that people get married to someone that they've never met, and then they have weeks of trials, and every week they have to decide if they want to stay or leave, or whatever, and they get to know each other over the course of it, and then eventually they can commit if they want. None of the relationships ever work out, although apparently one of the ones on this series has, so that's lovely. But you can imagine what it's like.
Yeah, I like those kind of shows, though.
Yeah.
Nothing quite will ever reach the quality of X on the Beach.
No, of course not.
Which is forever the greatest example of this kind of television. Although I think it's called The Cabin or The Cabins.
The Cabins, yeah.
Yeah. Which
is not a horror film.
No, it seemed like a less horrible version of Love Island from the creators of Love Island.
But that's what they're doing now with all these shows. It's Love Island in a house.
Yeah.
Love Island up a mountain. Love House, Love Mountain. Yeah. Love Island on a sinking yacht. You know, this is what they do.
The Love Titanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it seems like it's slightly nicer than Love Island. Less manipulative, less nasty. Which seemed fine. I was like, I can watch this. There's someone running around in a onesie, not doing a very good job of attracting the other person that they're stuck in a cabin with.
Yeah, and then talking to camera and going, ugh, I hate that person. Ugh.
I hate this person. Yeah.
Yeah. And, we're still in lockdown. COVID's still happening. It's been nearly a year. This kind of television is totally fine. I've come to accept it.
Yeah, it's completely fine to watch whatever you want to watch. And
we don't judge.
It is After We Collided, the worst movie ever made.
We don't judge unless you watch anything to do with the After universe, in which case
the After cinematic
you should be
universe.
ashamed.
We don't judge unless your hero finds Tiffin, in which case we judge you.
The finds Tiffin verse.
The finds Tiffin verse, yeah. So this week's movie was the finale of a beloved Netflix rom-com series, To All the Boys. So we had To All the Boys I Loved Before.
Although the star, Lena Condor, has said never say never when asked about a potential for number 4. Obviously, it's based on books. There were only 3 books, so...
I was going to say, they're going to need another book, aren't they? Although I suppose they could just do another movie.
They could. That has been done before, hasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I think... Yeah, they could just do another movie, couldn't they, instead of relying on a book? But it would be nice that it would be a book and then they'd do another one. We'll see. But it kind of rounds out that. So yeah, we had To All the Boys I Love Before, To All the Boys 2, and then To All the Boys Always and Forever.
Yeah. To All the Boys 2 had a funky name, didn't it? P.S. I Still Love You.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately reminds us of P.S. I Love You, which is
the greatest piece
better
of
than
Irish
After We
cinema.
Collided.
The greatest piece of Irish cinema ever.
Better than After We Collided, but worse than literally every other film.
No, it came out higher than it's low on the list, but it's nowhere near the bottom anymore, is it? We've watched some real stinkers.
That's true, actually. Yeah, it's definitely below that, Baywatch, and Just Friends. So I guess it's not so bad now that you think about it.
I think we need to rewatch it, and you should put into context what is this movie in comparison to Just Friends and After We Collided.
Oh God. It's not mean-spirited unless you're Irish.
It's done with love, but unfortunately that love comes with a side helping of stereotypes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, To All the Boys, Always and Forever. What did you think of this final part of the cinematic trilogy of our times?
Well, it's part 3. Part 1 was good, right? We enjoyed part 1 as a kind of fun and enjoyable Netflix film for teens based on some fun books that was fun and goofy and what you want from a kind of high school romance film. And then the second one came along and it was boring and a bit flat, right?
Yeah, that's bang on.
So going into the third one, you think, well, hopefully if it's concluding things, it won't feel like filler. Hopefully they'll have gotten the feedback from the second one and decided to make a better film. And I think they did. I think it probably doesn't have the full charm of the first one, but it still is a lot better than the second one and feels like a nice end to the trilogy, right? And there's a lot to like about it.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I was a little bit concerned going into it because I think it was filmed back to back with the second one. And I thought, oh no, is it going to have the same pitfalls? Because I seem to remember the second one had like the odd bit of awkward physical humour. The plot was paper thin. The characters were paper thin. I was like, oh no, is that going to be what it feels like in the third movie? But actually, this one feels a lot closer to the first one, albeit it doesn't have the same low-level scope that made the first one so relatable. Where the
I
first
can't
one...
remember the second one at all. It was really forgettable. I remember there was another guy. There was are you team Peter or are you team whoever the other guy is? And I liked the other guy better, and I was kept hoping he was going to turn up in this one, and then he didn't.
You liked him because he was an artistic piano man, and he was all like, I read poetry.
Yeah,
my name's
he was
Jaddy
a cardigan
Ponston.
Guy. He was a man who wore cardigans. And helped old people.
He was a paper-thin character who had no flaws and was there to be like, we've got another character here. But
just like the main guy, Peter, then.
Well, if you remember, in the first movie, Peter actually had quite a lot of depth, and that's why we liked it so much.
Did he?
Whereas the second one, he then became paper-thin, I am a jock. And then in this third one, he's not just a jock, and actually has some moments where you're like, wow, that is a very mature perspective to have. I was not expecting this from a movie about high school.
But then he ruins it all by liking Oasis and douchebag films and just generally being a douchebag.
He's not is he really a douchebag, though? I wouldn't say that he's a douchebag in this movie.
No, he's just boring.
They're all boring. That's the problem. Every character is boring because there's no real progression with character development in this film, because there hasn't been any character development since the first movie.
Hey, they go to Korea and the younger sister starts being interested in boys.
Traveling to a different location does not mean that you have grown as a person. So there's no real, and this is a real problem with a lot of the sequels on streaming services, is that often the first film, they have a fairly decent character progression, but then whether it's because the audience likes the characters and they're concerned about doing anything to shift what that character is further in the movies, or whether it's just the fact that making sequels is difficult, everything kind of stays static apart from the situation in the sequels to a lot of these films. And that's been the real problem with the To All the Boys movies, where the first one was great, and you had these two characters which were had an exceptional amount of depth for a teen rom-com. They had clear motivations, clear goals, but also had complicated feelings about things, and it really worked well. The second one was just very dull, no depth whatsoever, and this one, it kind of develops it, but nowhere near enough. And this is a much better movie than the second one, don't get me wrong, but it is nowhere near as good as the first film.
No. The first film has, it's a charm and a love bomb, isn't it? The first film, it's just got it all.
Yeah, whereas here it's the kind of story that you've seen an awful lot of times in high school movies. Basically, we're in love, but we might be going to different universities. Happens all the time. And of course, the main kernel of the plot is he's going somewhere, she doesn't get in, she doesn't tell him immediately. And I was thinking, oh god,
yeah,
okay, we've got another movie where miscommunication is the name of the game. And I seem to remember that's exactly what happened in the second movie, where she just did not tell him important things. But
this is hashtag relatable, because this is what happens when teens text each other, I assume. They often just don't text each other, and then that creates a problem. That's what happens, right?
Not like this. Not when hey, are we going to the same university? Yeah, lol. And then 2 days later, oh wait, lol, I lied, soz. That does not happen.
2 days later, when we're on a school trip to New York, what kind of school flies you 3,000 miles to New York for a school trip?
Oh, it's a big old posh high school, isn't it?
Is it a fee-paying private school?
I don't know if it is, but everyone's houses are very big, and everyone's wearing very expensive clothes, and everyone clearly is rich.
And Peter has a massive Jeep.
So it may well be that it's just in a rich part of California. Maybe.
It was in Portland. It said Portland on the map. Not that you know it.
Which is not necessarily the most rich city in certain areas. I know.
No. And there were no maudlin indie bands at all in it. So,
well, they live in the rich posh bits as well, because there's lots of if you thought gentrification in London was bad, apparently, you look at Portland. And one of these days we're going to talk about Blind Spotting, which is a movie I love, which is all set in Portland.
I thought you were going to say Portlandia.
One of these days we're going to watch Portlandia. I highly doubt this is in Portland. It's probably in some bit outside of Portland, where all the posh white people live.
Poshland.
Poshland.
Poshlandia.
So they clearly go to a posh school. They go over to New York, and then she realizes, oh no, I really like New York. I better talk to my boyfriend about this. Lol, no, I'm just going to make the decision. which is a real problem with this movie is time and time again, Peter, his character has a lot of, acceptance and lots of adult thinking behind the decision. So when she doesn't tell him that she hasn't got into Stanford, I immediately thought, there's going to be a big fight about this, but actually there isn't. And he says, don't worry, you're only 2 hours away. We'll still meet up at the weekends. We'll go to San Francisco. It's all going to be fine. And hey, here's an idea. You could always transfer after 1 year, which is something she hadn't considered. And I thought, Peter, this is quite clever. She then decides, oh wait, I actually want
clever, but don't you think it's still kind of controlling of him?
Well, they both want to go to the same university. It's not as though she wants to go to where does she get into? Berkeley?
Berkeley, yeah.
Yeah, it's not as though she wants to go to Berkeley. The only reason she's going is that she didn't get into Stanford. I wouldn't say that he's controlling in this movie at all. I'd say that she is.
No, but the movie wants you to think that, doesn't it? Because it's all like, she doesn't know what she wants. She's just going along with what Peter wants. And then actually he's fine with it. But it keeps setting it up that he's making her do it, even though he's not.
Yeah. I think he's very, very receptive to her needs and very understanding a lot of the time. Because she then decides, actually, no, I want to go to New York. And then again, doesn't immediately tell him. And it's like, why are you not talking about this with your boyfriend? Your boyfriend who is definitely an old man.
And, yeah, your 45-year-old boyfriend.
Yeah,
Billy Madison over here.
Because Noah Centineo, he's a young man. He is, but he looks very old in this movie. I think I told you in a text he looks like Mark Ruffalo in this film.
It's the sort of slightly ruffled hair, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's wearing a lot of old man shirts, and I was just thinking, oh no, he's aged so much. Why is this 30-something-year-old man going to high school? He's a very young person in general. I think he's born in like 1995 or something. So
1996,
much younger than us.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he turns up and is like, listen to this movie, listen to this album. It's Oasis.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, oh yes, he was probably around during the height of Britpop and saw them live.
Yeah.
At
What American high school kids love in 2021 is British men who drink and swear. Guys from Manchester.
That's exactly right.
What I want, if they're going to go down that route, what I would have wanted was for Peter to go full Manchester and, just have like one of those like fisherman hats and come in like wearing some baggy clothes and pretending to be Bez. Yeah. It'll be like, have you seen Bez's new workout series, Buzzing with Bez?
But yeah, he at some point, it might even be in the same bit, he says, oh yes, I have sent you an album on Spotify. Like, sure thing, old man.
Yeah. How do you do, fellow kids?
How do you do, fellow kids?
Yeah, that was an extremely how do you do, fellow kids moment.
And it did just feel, and there's little moments like that in this film that feel a little bit like, I think what worked so well about the first movie was even us as old men realized that that it was a movie that didn't speak down to kids. No. And that was really refreshing, because a lot of these movies, like the Kissing Booth films, for instance, they're kind of condescending to their audience. And what was really nice about To All the Boys was that it didn't do that at all. And I think this movie has its moments where it doesn't do that. I mean, the fact that they have those adult conversations about being like, hey, it's not the end of the world if we don't end up in the same universities. And at the end of the movie, again, it's like, hey, don't worry, I'm sure we can make it work. Spoiler alert, they won't. But yeah,
but it gives you that big romantic ideal ending, doesn't it? And that's what people watch it for, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it handles it in a very adult way, and it talks about these things in a very adult way, which again I think is refreshing and good for the kids. They're not being dumbed down to, even if sometimes the dialogue is a bit stilted. Like, this is an album I like on Spotify, that music app that the young people use.
It's Oasis. It's what's the story, Morning Story by Oasis. He has to say the name so that Liam Gallagher can get paid.
That Noel Fielding can get paid.
Noel Fielding, yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah.
Oasis and their famous 1997 album, The Mighty Boosh. Boosh exactly. Is Manchester slang for a cup of tea.
Yeah, that's precisely right.
Peter knows that, obviously, because he's well into the British culture, along with Marvel films and Fight Club.
He fucking loves The Big Lebowski.
Yeah. Can I tell you something?
Yes.
I've never seen The Big Lebowski.
You have told me that many times before.
Have you seen it? I think we've had this conversation before.
It's one of those things where I'm like, have I seen it? Or is it something that I've just seen all of the clips of it over the years so that it feels like I've seen it? I think I have, but I'm not sure.
Flea's in it, isn't he?
I'm in it.
You're in it?
Yeah, I'm in it. I love bowling.
Why aren't I in it?
Because you hate bowling.
Oh, what? No, I don't. When have I ever said that?
Paddy cancels bowling.
Yeah, bowling, latest victim of cancel culture.
Yeah,
it's going to be in all the newspapers tomorrow.
From Paddy Johnston, fucking hates bowling, wants to ban it for everyone else. You got the UK government being like, we must protect bowling. We must ensure that bowling is talked about on
We've created a new office for bowling and corruptly appointed a commissioner to deal with the massive threat to bowling, which is literally just one guy.
One guy. It's you.
Actually makes me feel pretty powerful.
Can
You
we
know
talk?
what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, can we talk about that briefly?
Yeah, of
It's
course
got
we
nothing
can.
to do with this movie, but yeah, basically the
Hey,
British...
they're both going to go to college. They're both going to be students.
So
I hope Peter is going to be aware of the threat to free speech on campuses, because it's really, really important that no one stops him from getting up and delivering his lecture on how Oasis are good, and also here's Pepe the Frog and I'm on Gab, or whatever, you know.
So for any of our non-UK listeners, the UK government has decided 5 years late that the US culture war over free speech on university campuses is something that they should look into. So what they're going to be doing
and it's something that is a very big and very real threat.
It's a very
when
real
actually
thing.
It was literally 6 events out of 10,000. They literally got the data, and that's what it was.
And also
That got cancelled because the speaker was a horrible person with awful views.
yeah, well, the issue is that so they're setting up this commission, and basically it's to protect free speech and on university campuses because conservative voices are being targeted, and it's like, well, no, they're not. Actually, student groups are using their voice and using their agency to ensure that hateful people aren't given a voice on their campuses. So actually, by getting rid of these speakers, or rather by protecting these speakers and ensuring that they are that universities are forced to take them on effectively, actually you're taking away the free speech of student groups. And that's what it is. This isn't actually about free speech. It's about protecting phrenology. You know, the people that are putting this forward and are doing these speeches, they are putting forward ideas that have been debunked for anywhere between 30 and 100 years now. You've got sort of race scientists. You've got
people like David Icke and such.
You've got these fucking absolute racist and bigoted weirdos. You've got these fucking mentalists who are anti-trans people, and basically the government's decided, no, we need to make sure that these people have a voice. The people who actually use the universities, fuck them, they don't get a voice. We need to make sure that these rich academics have a voice and get to go spout shite for an hour on university campuses. And at the same time as this, they are targeting areas like the National Trust, saying you are not allowed to talk about history. They're not allowing the National Trust to talk about history. They're trying to stop the National Trust from talking about the role of empire, the role of slavery in the growth of this nation. So what they're doing is actually silencing speech for things they don't like, because they need to keep up the fabrication that the empire was inherently a good thing.
Yeah. And to, stir up the classic myth about Britain being this great country, which it has not been for a long time.
Which it never was.
It never was, obviously. We've always been a nation of oppressive colonisers.
Yeah, you can't claim to be a great country if you have an empire built on genocide, which is what Britain was for a very long time. And unfortunately, we're not going to be allowed to learn about that anymore, because there's going to be sanctions against people who do that. There's going to be sanctions against schools that put up any anti-capitalist sources, whatever the fuck that means. I mean, does that mean that left-wing historians aren't going to be part of syllabuses going forward? Does it mean we're not allowed, but kids aren't allowed to learn about anything other than how great Winston Churchill was and how he didn't want to fuck bulldogs?
He didn't fuck them on the beaches. He didn't fuck them in the streets. Definitely didn't happen.
Definitely did not have sex with bulldogs. And
you know what the best part is that not only are you gonna silence all of the students in this way and make sure they only learn bullshit, they're going to pay you £9,000 a year or more for the privilege as well.
Yeah, and the thing is that people aren't going to turn up to these fucking events anyway. They're going to be like, oh yes, we must make sure that white supremacists get a voice on university campuses and get these external speaking functions. You know who's going to turn up? It's going to be a bunch of people outside protesting, and no one's going to actually turn up to their fucking events.
Yeah, because everyone's over in the lecture about Winston Churchill fucking bulldogs on the other side of campus. That one's got pictures.
Yeah,
it's got restored video footage. You know how Peter Jackson did that thing with the Beatles documentary recently, and with that other boring war film that I'm never going to watch, where he got the black and white footage from the time and recolored it, and apparently it's amazing. Someone is working on that footage right now, but it's Winston Churchill fucking bulldogs.
I thought you were going to say, when you mentioned Peter Jackson, that he'd got Andy Serkis in to be the bulldog.
Well, I'll say that.
Yeah,
Serkis's greatest role. The thing is that you wouldn't recognise him because you never recognise Andy Serkis.
You never do you? But yeah, so basically what's going to happen is that they just are going to be giving free publicity to white supremacists. And that's what the end result of this free speech commission is. And that's what they're going for, is that because people aren't the only people who are going to turn up to these events are people to protest. So the white supremacist in question is going to get lots of pictures of like, oh, look at all these protesters outside my event. Or it's going to be like
trying to silence me.
Rah, buy my book. Subscribe to my Patreon. Give me a column in the Daily Telegraph, or
listen to my podcast.
Yeah, which is exactly what's going to happen. So all it is just free publicity for white supremacists. Meanwhile, the actual uncomfortable free speech question and the actual uncomfortable speech that we need to address, which is the issue of imperialism in the growth of our country and white supremacy and genocide in the growth of our country, that's the thing that's at risk of being suppressed and has been successfully suppressed for so long. And people are only recently actually talking about it in places like the National Trust.
Yeah, 100%.
So in short, the Conservatives don't care about free speech. They care about oppressing your speech. Fuck you. Fuck you, Boris Johnson. Scruffy head. Pikachu? Feel free to bleep that word, by the way. Replace it with like...
I haven't got time to bleep. What do you want me to replace it with?
Replace it with Pikachu going, Pikachu! That's what I want you to do.
Okay, I can do that.
The thing is, I've lived through some bad leaders of this country, but none of them have...
You say that like I haven't as well.
We have lived through some bad leaders in this country. I mean, has there been a good leader?
No.
They've all been bad to a certain extent.
They've all been bad. David Cameron followed in the Churchillian tradition, except with pigs.
We shall fuck them at the barbecue. We shall fuck them at the abattoir. Okay, so when we were born, it was... Margaret Thatcher, most famous for her role as the stunt double of the alien queen in James Cameron's Aliens.
Yeah.
Then replaced,
and stealing lots of milk.
Then replaced by grey-faced, thin-lipped man John Major. Then we had Tony B. Liar, who did some good things, also committed war crimes. So overall, I'd say probably a bad thing.
War criminal and minimum wage enthusiast Tony Blair.
Yeah. Exactly. Got rid of the death penalty, also murdered hundreds of thousands of people. Probably not a good trade-off.
Yeah.
Then
did a lot of good work on the Good Friday Agreement, but also
murdered hundreds of thousands of people. Then we got good old David Cameron, famous pig fucker, deceptive, floppy-faced green leader of the Tories, who then decided to kill hundreds of thousands of people in his own country through austerity.
That's before we even get to Brexit.
That's before we get to Brexit. Then we've got Theresa May, famous for crushing the saboteurs and then crying and running through a field of wheat. And then Boris Johnson, the bloated scarecrow.
Yeah. Wurzel Bummage.
So we've literally had no good prime ministers in this country for the entirety of our lives.
No.
I also missed out Gordon Brown, by the way, which says as much as you need to about Gordon Brown that we forgot about him. Someone who maybe could have done a good job if he hadn't taken over the job at the worst possible time and been left with a bunch of tired, haggard, corrupt Labour politicians.
He's most remembered for calling a bigoted woman a bigot.
Yeah, which, to be fair, that's kind of a win. And more people should do that. Where was the defence of Gordon Brown's free speech?
Yeah.
Boris Johnson, why weren't you
Where were you that day saying, well, I respect the right of Gordon Brown to call a bigot a bigot?
Yeah, exactly. But, maybe we'll get a great leader next. Maybe it will be Keir Starmer. That's going to happen.
The lawyer man.
Yeah, Keir Starmer, the most exciting man in the world.
Hey, he probably likes Oasis as well.
I bet he fucking likes Oasis.
And Stereophonics.
I really like Oasis, but sometimes they're a bit too raucous for me. I have to tone
a bit
it down
rude.
A bit rude for my liking.
Went to see them once when I back when I was a hip young human rights lawyer, and one of them Gallagher boys raised his two fingers to the crowd, and it made me sad.
It's a real talk. I'd much rather he was leader than Boris Johnson.
Yes, obviously. Jesus Christ, 1,000 times.
But,
yes.
but the question is, who can take over as leader of the Labour Party? Because lots of Corbynites are saying, "Oh, we must get rid of him. He's useless." And it's like, well, yeah, he's been kind of useless so far. He's done some good stuff, done some bad stuff. But who's going to replace him?
He's walking a tightrope in a very, very difficult situation. You know, with the COVID and such going on, it's a difficult time to be in opposition because, you know, if you're overly critical of the government, then people just think you're trying to sabotage any effort to get out of COVID. And if you're not critical enough, people say, well, why aren't you holding them to account? Like, I think you really can't win in that situation. But at the same time, he definitely likes Oasis.
Yeah, I'd also say that he's not being critical enough. I think
I agree. I think he should be going for it with both barrels, but I understand why he's not.
Or at the very least doing a better job than he is, because if you look at the opinion polls, because there's now people getting vaccinated, which is great, there's been a surge in support for the Conservative Party because it's like, oh yes, we're nearly at the end, well done, Boris. It's like, no, 100,000 people have died because of the incompetency of this government, but the Labour Party never really held them to account at any point.
It literally took them a year to introduce a quarantining arrivals into the country policy, which has proven to work in loads of other countries.
Yeah, they've done unbelievably poorly. You look at other countries which are in a similar situation to ourselves, and we've done the worst out of any of them. We're one of the worst performing countries in terms of, you know, death rates.
Other island nations.
Yeah, well, we're by far the worst of any island nations, but you know, even in comparison to other countries, we've done incredibly poorly, just regardless of what their circumstances are. But yeah, he's not held them to account. But who will take over? I mean, like, obviously the answer is build a time machine, lock Jeremy Corbyn in a cupboard, and by default, Andy Burnham becomes leader of the Labour Party, which is what should have happened back then. Bless you, Jeremy Corbyn, but no. Get in a cupboard.
Just didn't really work. Yeah, we could have a go with Andy Burnham. He's now the angry mayor of Manchester.
And he should have been leader at the time, but then there was this surge in popular vote for Jeremy Corbyn.
Also an appreciator of Bez.
Also, obviously, an appreciator of Bez. He is an Everton fan, which I won't hold against him, but he's got a good head on his shoulders. This podcast brought to you by Appreciators of Andy Burnham Society.
This podcast brought to you by Britain is Bad.
Or you've got the other mayor. You've got Sadiq Khan, who half the country would never vote for because they're a bunch of racists.
Yeah, that's true. But the London mayoral elections are coming up, aren't they?
They are. Yeah. And
the Tory candidate had a gaffe recently where he said that homeless people would be able to save up for a deposit on a house. So I'm sure it's going to go really well for him.
I've forgotten his name, but
Sean Bailey.
Sean Bailey, that's right. Probably the worst person to run for Mayor of London in a long time. You've had some real stinkers of candidates over the years, but he is really taking the biscuit for just the number of stupid things said per minute of his life. It's very impressive. Good luck, mate. I think they've basically already given up, haven't they?
Yeah, they have.
I think they've already said, yeah, we're not going to win this. But
unless it's like Boris Johnson when he was mayor, sort of did a Voldemort curse on the job, so you can only have it for one term. Like the Defence Against the Dark Arts job.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's what happened. British politics is bad. I mean, like, obviously, all eyes have been on America and people going, oh no, Joe Biden, what a disaster. Like, mate, I'd kill to have Joe Biden right now.
Oh, old Uncle Joe.
He's bad, but, you know, is he any worse than anybody in British politics? No. So yeah, do you reckon Peter has a poster of Joe Biden on his dorm at Stanford? Yeah, 100%. He's got a poster.
Next to Bez.
He's got a poster of Keir Starmer. He's the one person in the world with a Keir Starmer poster.
Yeah, Americans don't like Oasis. Come on, do they? Really?
Are they one of those bands that tried to make it in America and failed?
That's what I would assume.
There's quite a lot that have tried to do that. Let's have a look, though, because maybe they were one of the ones that managed to break it.
Yes, I've been. Did Oasis make it in America? That's just reminded me of that film Yesterday, when he's like in the alternate timeline where the Beatles don't exist, and then he looks for Oasis and they don't exist, and he's like, yeah, figures.
Yes, the one funny joke in that movie.
Yeah. Didn't you think the whole thing about Ed Sheeran saying he should call Hey Jude, Hey Dude was funny?
Oh, that was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Ed Sheeran should act in more movies.
Maybe he should be the leader of the Labour Party.
Ed Sheeran, yeah.
Yeah.
I could see him.
He's sort of like if you squashed Keir Starmer, isn't he?
If Keir Starmer and Jeremy Corbyn were spliced, and then the person was being made in a test tube, but they grew a bit too fast and had their face squished against this side of the test tube a bit. That's Ed Sheeran.
Yeah. And then came out of the test tube writing beautiful popular songs.
Yes, exactly. I'm in love with the notion of worker rights being a famous one of his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you found out if Oasis made it?
It seems as though they didn't flop, but they also didn't succeed. So they got they got more fame than they deserved. Take that, Oasis, with your millions and your beloved records.
Does that mean that Peter's a hipster then? Because he likes obscure bands?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe he's just an old hipster.
Classic Portland hipster.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the hipsters play lacrosse.
If you're going to pick one of the... I mean, that's another sign that it's a bit of a posh school, is that it's got lacrosse as the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're going to pick any sport to be the hipster sport, I think it's got to be lacrosse, though, hasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Even though I am obviously a sports hipster who likes baseball, which is a really old man sport.
But that's because you're in the UK liking baseball. If you like baseball in the US, that would just be considered a default position.
Yeah, not as much as football or basketball. Like, it's definitely less popular than those sports.
Oh, I don't know. Aren't some of the biggest earners in the world baseball players?
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of money in it.
There's a ridiculous amount of money in it because old men like it and old men pay money to watch it on TV.
I don't know. I think it's
the kids are all watching basketball on the TikToks. I'm telling you.
I should defer to you as you are the expert of teenagers in America.
Yeah, that's something that I know a lot about. Because I've seen a lot of these kind of films. And the point we're trying to make by spending half an hour talking about British politics is that Britain sucks and should never even be mentioned in American high school films. There shouldn't be anything British in them.
Britain sucks and should just be cast out and sunk like Atlantis.
Yeah, it should just sink.
Yeah.
It should have sunk on the day we left the European Union, really, just to prove the point.
It should be stripped from every encyclopedia. If the word Britain is ever uttered, it should be shushed out of existence.
Yeah.
Britain is rubbish, but To All the Boys, Always and Forever is goodish.
It's goodish, yeah.
Yeah, what I would say is that it's directed by Michael Faimignari, I think it was pronounced, who also directed P.S. I Still Love You, which makes sense because they were back to back.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that he is actually primarily a cinematographer.
Okay. I'm just looking at his page now. Yeah, I hadn't heard of his name.
And he's worked on some really great horror stuff. He's one of the cinematographers that Mike Flanagan works with. Mike Flanagan's a wonderful horror director. And you can kind of see the same style of cinematography here. Is a really, really... Some of the moments in this movie in particular are actually quite picturesque. And it is a well-directed movie, I'd say. Particularly those sort of like the sweeping shots in New York in particular. And just in general, the sort of placement in this movie is very good. And I think that shows in his quality because, I mean, Dr. Sleep, the cinematography in that was fantastic. equally, The Haunting of Hill House TV series had some amazing cinematography. And so, yeah, I think fair play. This is not necessarily the greatest movie of all time, but it is pretty. It is competent.
Yeah, it looks really, really nice. Especially, there are a few really, really good montages that are really, really effective as well. Especially the thing where it goes through her life with Peter while "Wannabe" by the Spice Girls plays, and like when she doesn't get in, and it kind of shows it backwards, playing like a sad version of that song. That is brilliant. Yeah,
that's incredibly well done. And I think also the bits where Peter's sitting on her bed and they're having that kind of fictional conversation together, those bits worked incredibly well too. And so, yeah, there's some creative moments in this movie and some creative risks in that way that are taken, which do pique your interest, don't they?
Yeah, and there's that thing where she keeps appearing in the like cafe that's made of paper drawings. I'm not sure if that's a real place, but it like kept kind of cropping up.
Yeah. Did you like the little animated sections as well?
Yeah, I did. I thought that was really fun and really creative and a nice way to sort of jazz it up and make it not just about, oh my God, I texted my boyfriend I got into Stanford. It was actually like, here's something a little bit different, you know?
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's really well done. And just to let you know, that is a real cafe.
I thought so.
Yeah. It's
I really
cool.
enjoyed the opening shots of Seoul and Korea. I thought that was all really good, and it had the song G by Girls' Generation, which when we were in Hong Kong, 2012 I think it was, that song was everywhere, and it's a banger. So bringing in a little bit of K-pop at the beginning I thought was a really, really nice touch.
I was going to say, is this what the young people refer to as K-pop?
It is, yeah.
I have something controversial to say.
If you listen to lots of it, you're in a K-hole.
I have something controversial to say here.
You don't like K-pop?
I like K-pop as much as I like regular pop, which is not very much. But for me, it sounds exactly the same, apart from that it's in Korean. It's just, you listen to that, and then you listen to the kind of pop music that gets made in the US or in the UK, and it's like, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's in Korean.
It's in Korean.
So we don't know what they're saying because we don't speak Korean. So it's fun.
Yeah, but that's the only difference. People go on about it, particularly when J-pop was a big thing. Lots of people at our university were like, "Oh, it's so much better than UK pop or US pop." It's like, no, it's not. It sounds exactly the same. It's manufactured pop music.
Yeah, but as if there's no influence on other countries of Western pop, and as if like K-pop and J-pop aren't influencing Western artists as well.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's all one homogenous blob of mediocre pop music, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There
are some bangers out there.
What I'm saying is go and listen to Cult of Luna, the only band that makes good music.
Or Holy Fawn.
Go and listen to obscure shoegaze post-metal, the only form of music that's acceptable.
Yeah. Or power metal or black metal, which is what I've been enjoying of late.
You've been on a black metal train, have you?
Yeah. Well, as I said, I keep going on about Children of Bodom, who I really, really like, but that's like almost black metal, but it has like tinges of power metal, and it kind of like it has all this like really flashy stuff to it. It is just so good. But I've been listening to a lot of Opeth as well, who were always one of my faves.
Ah, yes, Opeth. I like metal, but I have to be very specific about what kind of metal I listen to. So it doesn't necessarily have to be melodic, but it has to have a certain groove to it for me to enjoy it.
Right. So you like Iron?
I like iron. I like magnesium.
No tin in your house.
No tin in my house. In fact, yeah. In terms of what I imagine tin to be like, that's like the Metallica snare. Yeah. If any metal was the Metallica snare, that's what tin would sound like, isn't it? Just that horrible snare.
Yeah. Tin cans. Yeah. I was just making a dad joke about metal there for old man, Uncle Grandpa, Dad Peter in this film.
Yeah, he's liking that. He gave that a little chuckle before going back to sucking on his pipe.
Yep.
Putting up his feet in those tartan slippers and going, I remember when I was in the To All the Boys films. Oh, I was a young whippersnapper back then.
We had some good times, didn't we?
Oh, I remember I talked about Oasis. Back when I first heard them, I thought, oh, I'm a bit too old for this music, but you know what? I made it pass.
I'll give it a try.
Now let me have a big old sip of prune juice.
I've still got it.
we say bullying a man that's 8 years our junior. And is impossibly
Who's a very good
talented.
and very successful, handsome actor.
I mean, seriously, I think the cast of these movies is very good.
Yeah.
I really like that the third movie didn't have a stupid love triangle, unless you count New York as the third part of the love triangle, which I suppose you could do.
Uh-huh.
But I like that instead it was a focus on the two of them, and I think again they both did a really great job in this.
Yeah, I was expecting there to just be another love triangle.
Here's another boy that I loved before, but no.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's going to be in the new Masters of the Universe. He's going to be He-Man.
Okay.
Which
I'm open to that.
And also he's going to be in Black Adam, which is a DC superhero movie. The Rock is Black Adam. He's someone else called Atom Smasher. I don't know who Atom Smasher is because I don't know who Black Adam is, but hopefully it's good for his sake.
Sounds like fun.
Yes.
Sounds like he's got a bright future ahead of him, and I'm very happy for him.
Yeah, and I think it's well deserved. You know, he's got a lot of charm in everything that we've watched him in. A lot of charisma and also a lot of acting talent, because these are rom-coms, but actually apart from the second movie, his characters required quite a lot of depth in all of them. And it's the same with Lara Jean.
Even in your favourite film in the world, Sierra Burgess is a loser.
Oh yeah, the horrible catfish manipulation movie. He's great in that as well, you know.
He was good at being deep about being catfished.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think he's got a good future ahead of him. And I'm looking forward to seeing where his career goes. I hope he gets to do some weird shit, like strange movies, not just big blockbusters and rom-coms. I want him to do, like, I don't know, a new Stephen Lynch, something like that. I think would be interesting. But then Lana Condor, who played Lara Jean, she's really good as well.
Yeah, and again, I think probably also has a bright future ahead of her.
Yes, yeah, I think so as well. So yeah, fingers crossed for you guys. We like you. We like you both.
You young whippersnappers.
All these young people with their TikToks and their K-pop and their Oasis albums.
Yeah. Here's where Rob tells you that the TikTok is no different. It's just the same as Tick and Tok.
TikTok is just the same as, what was the thing that was around when we were younger?
Vine.
It is just
That
Vine.
is actually true.
All it is Vine. And it just shows how stupid
it's Vine with the UX designers paid a lot of money to make it addictive.
Who bought Vine? Because Vine got bought by, was it Google or was it Facebook? Maybe it was Facebook.
I feel like it was Twitter. I don't know.
Or was it Twitter?
I do not know.
Yeah, maybe it was Twitter. It was bought out by somebody, wasn't it? And then they just failed dismally.
Yeah. No, and then they just got rid of it.
And they got rid of it. So it was founded in 2012, bought out by Twitter in 2012 as well. But then, they disabled all uploads in 2016. They kind of just ran it into the ground, didn't they? And then all of a sudden TikTok appears. And it's like, oh, it's basically just fine again.
Yeah. But yeah, you young kids with your TikToks, you go and do that. We like you.
Yeah, we do. Young people are great. So to all the boys...
But so are old people. I like the fact that him off of My Big Fat Greek Wedding appears as the dad again.
He's the dad.
And he comes down while she can't sleep. She's baking in the middle of the night. Just drinking a glass of milk in the middle of the night as if that's something a normal human does. You know, I like that.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And then Peter's dad appears as well, played by Henry Thomas, who is also in The Haunting of Hill House and is in Doctor Sleep. He plays the bartender in Doctor Sleep. They go back to
the Scary Hotel.
They go back to the Scary Hotel, And he's basically Jack Torrance, the bartender, that kind of character again. And it's like, oh, he's great. And yeah, we love Henry Thomas. He's great. And he gives the sort of emotional dad speech of this movie, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it feels a bit like he's just there to try and like give Peter a bit of emotional depth, so you don't think he's just a jock who listens to Oasis. But like, it's fine.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so he's there and he's good and we like him. He's also going to be in Midnight Mass, which is the next thing that Mike Flanagan's going to be working on, who's the big old horror hero. But also Michael Fimignari is also going to be involved in that. So he's going back to horror, going back to being a cinematographer.
Great.
With Mike Flanagan. So look forward to that. It's going to look beautiful, whatever it is.
Nice.
So in terms of critical reception, this movie got a 65 from Metacritic overall, which I think is acceptable. I think that's respectful.
Metacritic skews lower, doesn't it, overall?
So Metacritic gives an accurate representation of what the percentage was of the official reviews, of the accepted reviews. So whereas Rotten Tomatoes only gives a binary of how many were fresh, how many were rotten, based on is it 50% or 60%, and it goes one either way.
I thought it was 50%.
Yeah.
It's what's known as the Gordon Ramsay scale. It's rotten or it's not rotten.
Whereas Metacritic, which is superior, actually gives a percentage rating based on what the scores are across various channels. Which I think is an acceptable thing, and didn't get any majorly disappointing scores, which is good. And I think that shows, this is a competent film. It might not be the most exciting, it might not be the greatest movie out there, but as a finale of a trilogy where the second part was so poor, it does a pretty good job of bringing it all back together.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you could watch it even without having seen the first two. I think it's accessible enough and easy enough. This is easy watching, and this is what Netflix should be investing their time and money in, because this is what people want at a time like this. It's nice, it's fun, it's enjoyable, and it is predictable, but it's not without joy, and it's not without fun, and it's not without goofiness, and all of those things carry it and make it a nice, easy watch. So why not? Yeah,
definitely. And it also you can watch this one, watch the first one, and then watch this one. The second movie has no bearing on the plot of this film whatsoever. I think you should watch the second movie because it has the nice boy with the cardigan in it. Oh, pathetic wet milk man. Oh, I help old people, and I play the piano, and I read poetry, and my name's Paddy Johnston. Oh.
You know who else reads poetry?
Who reads poetry?
Hero Finds Tiffin.
Oh, he does read poetry, yeah. Hero Finds Tiffin. You are Hero.
Sorry, we're talking about the character he plays in the Afterverse, but also that character is him, so they're interchangeable now. It's all one thing.
What was this character's name?
Hardin.
No. In To All the Boys Too.
Oh, I can't remember. I'll have to look it up.
Just absolute paper thin.
Yeah, it was
John Ambrose.
John Ambrose.
Yeah. I read important literature.
Hi, I like books.
I like books because I'm a massive nerd.
So, of course, Peter, who's never read a book in his life, is, of course, the perfect guy.
He's great, and he's wonderful in this. And he does read books.
When does he read books?
He's constantly reading books. Where do you think he found out about Oasis from? He was reading...
From a book.
He was reading The Great Big Book of Dad Rock.
Which was given to him by his dad, who's distant.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually a film I would watch, like Peter and his dad, like listening to rock records together and going to gigs and like reconnecting over Oasis fandom.
Now that's what I call dad rock. It's an album that Peter likes.
I thought that was the name of the film. Now that's what I call dad rock.
Okay, so what is on Now That's What I Call Dad Rock? It's one of the Now That's What I Call Musics.
Oh, is this an actual real album?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, geez. Read it to me. No.
Hold on, I'm trying to find. Yeah, because do you remember when they were called Now That's What I Call Music instead of now 46 or now 103 or whatever they're up to now?
Yeah. For non-British listeners, this was like a compilation tape or CD of all the recent pop hits that used to come out every few months. Yes. And the first one was called Now That's What I Call Music, and then it'd been 2 and whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, if you went down to Woolworths and you picked up that on a cassette or a CD, you knew you'd be in for some real pop gold.
Yeah, and then we get some old spin-offs like Now That's What I Call Dad Rock. I'm just seeing if Oasis is on Now That's What I Call Dad Rock. It is not. It is not. The Stereophonics is. So
okay.
we've got a bit of Rolling Stones, Start Me Up. We've got a bit of With or Without You by U2. Radioactive by Imagine Dragons. That's a bit out there for Now That's What I Call Dad Rock, isn't it?
That's a bit too new, I'm going to say.
Take Me to Church by Hosier. That's not what I would call Dad Rock. That is not what I would
don't know
call
that
dad.
One.
You know,
and I'm a dad, so I should know.
You know, take me to church. Take me to church. I've been something and I saw down the shrine of your lies. Something. I'm a really sad man. Oh no. Do a remix of that. Oh no, I'm a sad man from Ireland. Take me to church. You don't know that?
No, I've never heard that song
so
before
good.
in my life.
Look it up. It's genuinely an awesome song. It's got big
sounds like
sort of
something out of P.S. I Love You.
It's got
I'm sad and I'm from Ireland.
It's got big Nick Cave energy. It's a good one. We've got Rockstar by Nickelback. Sweet Home
that
Alabama.
is a dad rock song.
Sweet Home Alabama, Lynyrd Skynyrd, obviously.
Yep.
Don't Fear the Reaper, Blue Oyster Cult.
Yep.
Ace of
Like
Spades,
that one.
Motorhead.
Yeah. Now you're talking.
Town Called Malice by The Jam.
All right.
She's So Lovely, Scouting for Girls.
What?
Chelsea Dagger, The Fratellis.
Of course.
Got the Stone Roses on here. If you do want to there's action. Everybody's Changing by Keane. Now that's what I call piano dad rock.
Someone had a good laugh compiling this, didn't they?
Yeah, Iggy and the Stooges we got on here. Got a bit of Lenny Kravitz as well. Stacey's Mum by Fountains of Wayne.
What?
I know you're a fan of Fountains of Wayne.
Big fan, yeah.
And we've got Crazy Crazy Nights by Kiss. Teenage.
What all dads want to listen to is a song about a teenager having sex with his girlfriend's mum.
Exactly. We've got Complicated by Avril Lavigne. In Too Deep by Sum 41. So
there's like a pop punk section.
Yeah, there's
to
like
this
a little
playlist.
Pompeii by Bastille. What? How is that dad rock? Dad rock. And it ends with Roxy Music, the shit on top of the cake.
I hate Roxy Music.
I fucking hate Roxy Music. What a terrible band. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Pompous, bloated, old garbage.
I'm just like, Brian Eno, what were you doing? Why were you involved in this? Terrible band. Roxy Music fans, come at me. I think I can
come on. We know you listen every week. Brian Ferry.
I think Brian Ferry, the only remaining Roxy Music fan in the world. Even the rest of
He's
the
there wearing
the
the t-shirt of his own band.
Oh man, Brian Ferry.
Good times. So yeah, Noah Centineo listens to that playlist every day.
He does. He listens to that album every day. He busts out.
While he's pumping iron in preparation for his lacrosse games.
He busts out his Sony Walkman, rewinds the tape, puts it in. Goes, music was better before the digital age.
Yeah. And Lara Jean humours him because she loves him. And it's a love story and it's lovely.
Yeah. You gotta love your man, haven't you?
Yeah. Stand by your man.
Even when he likes Roxy Music.
So yeah, and it provides a very, very nice, satisfying, proper love ending, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And it's nice, isn't it? And you think, that's really sweet. And then you remember...
She still gets to go to NYU and do all the things that writers love, like intern in publishing, that kind of stuff is all there.
And
but she still gets to be with Peter.
And I hope that when they do inevitably make a fourth one, they continue the trend of rom-coms not understanding what publishing is and her doing some random stuff in her internship at a publisher.
At this point, it's a requirement, right?
Yeah. So bring it on.
Wait, I know what it's going to do. It's going to be, she's going to go to, like, she's going to be interning at a small publisher, but that's apparently still making loads of money off of poetry, because everyone buys poetry books, and they're going to be doing a poetry book by John Ambrose, and he's going to be there, and he's going to be like, hey, I'm a sexy published poet now, go out with me.
That's a good idea, actually.
And then, like, it's going to be, like, long distance with Peter, but does she go with the sexy poet man in New York?
Yeah, they should, Netflix, come on, guys. Get in touch.
Netflix. We genuinely have some good ideas sometimes, so, get on it.
Yeah, get on it, come on.
Sometimes. Still waiting to hear back about Lit Men.
Yeah, Lit Men was...
I emailed them again last week.
But yeah, give us To All the Boys 4. Sexy poet.
Yeah.
P.S. You're a sexy poet.
Yeah. I'm sexy and I'm a poet.
Boom, ba-dum, dad rock, boom, ba-dum, dad rock. Surprised that wasn't on the Dad Rock album. Seems like every other fucking song was.
Yeah, it seemed to have sections, didn't it? So you're surprised there wasn't a sort of like dance hits that a dad might dance to when he's had a couple of beers.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I as a father, I would like to state that I would get down to that song. As a father,
I think.
As a father, I would like to state that I'm sexy and I know it.
You should start every statement you make from now on with "as a father." Like you're on a work Zoom call and they ask you questions like, "Well, as a father." I'm just looking at Brian Ferry. Why does he look like a disgraced Italian politician?
Well, as a father, I should tell you that I think he's actually related to Silvio Berlusconi.
There is a passing resemblance between him and Silvio.
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh dear. Did I send you, by the way, you know how your iPhone makes you like these little video montages of photos? Yeah, I did.
You did.
I don't know if I've still got it. But basically for our listeners, your iPhone unbidden, I don't think you can turn it off. It takes like photos from your photo gallery and makes like a little video montage for you each day and sets it to music and whatever. And they're all just photos of my son, my beautiful son who I love. And like every day it's like, oh, I got this nice little thing. And then somehow, for some reason, there was a picture of Silvio Berlusconi on my camera, and it showed loads of cute photos from my son when he was a baby. It's like emotional music, piano music, and then it just came onto a picture of Silvio Berlusconi at the end. So
it was my beautiful son that I love.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. That's one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. I'm not going to lie.
So yeah, to all the Berlusconis I've loved before. So
how would you rank this then out of 20 Berlusconis?
Oh dear. I'll give it a 13 Berlusconis.
Oh,
Was
very
that fair?
good. I think that's fair. I was going to go 12. I think that's a perfectly cromulent score for this film.
Yeah, agreed.
So it's a competent end to a trilogy. Leaves room for more if they want to at some point, if it makes enough money, which I think it will.
Goofy, fun, original enough as sort of high school romance teen movies go, but still gives you that hit of what you're expecting from it. It's good. Yeah.
So it's a recommendation from us, I'd say.
Yeah, go and watch it.
So what have we got next?
Well, I think it's time to go for something a little bit older, something that hasn't come up before, but then you might think, oh, why hasn't it come up before? Which is Grease.
Ah.
And this has been on my mind recently, and I have literally no idea why. Maybe it was because we saw Olivia Newton-John on some TV interview, and I was like, Grease, we got to talk about Grease. But I also wanted to ask if you want to watch Grease 2 as well, because I keep hearing that apparently Grease 2 is good and is better than the first one. But this might just be a vicious rumour. So do you want to do a double bill, or do you want to just leave it at Grease? Because I know you've got a lot on.
Let's do a double bill. I have to spoil it for you. Grease 2 is a piece of shit.
Oh, good.
It's fucking awful.
I've not seen it.
Spoiler alert. Whoever's told you that Grease 2 is good is lying or has terrible taste or both. It is...
It was Peter Kavinsky.
It is an abhorrent piece of cinema. It's genuinely awful.
This is gonna. I'm gonna make a prediction now. This is gonna be an under the cherry moon situation, where like Grease 2 was a piece of shit at the time and no one liked it, and now it's like had a critical reappraisal and like there's stuff to like in it that's sort of culty, but you're still gonna hate it, and I'm gonna like it. That's my prediction.
So
I'm not gonna go into it deliberately trying to like it to piss you off, even though that is tempting. But. But yeah, I'm intrigued.
The question is, do you want to do them both for the next episode, or do you want to do them one after the other? Do you think that because Grease 1 is worthy of an episode in its own right, does Grease 2 warrant an entire episode, I guess is the question.
Yeah, well, will we annoy fans of Children, Death Island and Twilight if we did all 4 of their beloved films in one episode, and then
no, that's true.
We dedicate an episode to each of the Grease films.
Yeah, let's do the double bill then. Let's do them both in one.
We know the fans of the Grease verse
the
will come
Grease
after
cinematic
us.
universe.
Yeah, the Travolta verse.
Yeah, the Travolta verse.
Let's do them both in one episode.
Cool. I haven't watched either in a very long time. I've only watched Grease 2 the once because, like I said, it is a very bad film. But yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll come back to it and think, God damn, this is a masterpiece.
I still want to revisit Under the Cherry Moon at some point because I think it is a potential masterpiece.
There's nothing stopping you from watching it on your own because no one else wants to watch it.
Yeah,
even
that
Prince,
is in my house. That is true.
Even Prince up in heaven is like, I'm not watching that.
He's like, I ain't got time for black and white films.
No, he'll watch Purple Rain again.
Yeah, good times. Well, we covered a lot of ground in this episode, but the main message is listen to Dad Rock.
Yeah, listen to Dad Rock like the Fratellis or LMFAO.
Yeah.
Famous Dad Rock bands.
Hey, remember this. The message from us to you. You're sexy and you know it.
You are sexy and you know it.
All right, partner. But yeah, thanks a lot for tuning in. We really, really appreciate it. And we hope you enjoyed To All the Boys, Always and Forever. And if you haven't seen it, we hope you go away and watch it and enjoy it. And hope you enjoy all our chat about films. We have a lot of episodes in our back catalogue, so be sure to go and revisit those if there are some films you want to hear about that you have seen or you haven't seen, or things you want to hear us talk about, like Lit Men.
Yeah, where would you like to go to university? Would you like to play lacrosse? Where's the best cookie you've ever eaten?
What is lacrosse?
What is lacrosse?
I don't know. Please explain it to me. So yeah, if you know what lacrosse is, you can get in touch with us on Twitter at BigBoysDon'tPod, emails at BigBoysDon'tCryPodcast@gmail.com. Always love to hear from you, and please do rate, review, and subscribe to the show because it helps other people find it, and we want to spread the love and the joy of these kind of films.
Yes, we want more people to hear us talk about British politics.
Yeah, and how it is bad. Oh, all right, and we'll be back next week to talk about Grease and Grease 2.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
Ready? Bye.
Pikachu?